Hey team, I got a couple of war puppers gloriously painted to level 4 painting standard by Den of Imagination Painting Studios. I do like the job they did, absolutely gorgeous. Here is their rear, their behind. Then the idea is I add them to this bad boy, so I have a proper Chaos Knights detachment that in turn I can add to the end of all things, my Nurgle Death Guard army. That's why I got this version, the DACA version, because while the rest of my Death Guard force come running up the table, then these guys can pop down a lot of suppressing firepower and stay back and hold on to objectives. But they didn't base them. I told them not to base them because I wanted to do the bases myself and base one more time, god damn it. Base ain't a country I ever heard of. I wanted to base them myself so I can add them to my Death Guard force so that they all mix, the bases mix in base. You know, like these bases, lol. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I do my Nurgle bases. To start off, glue some bits on your thing. Then get some red stuff and put splodges on your thing. Make sure your blobs are thick, you know, so they blister up good like a war wound. Okay, then we get some astro granite. Slap that on there as well, again, nice and thick. Then you've got to let it dry out completely. This is 2 hours in. You can see the red stuff beginning to crack up here. But basically, you've got to leave it overnight. Like this, nice and cracked. And then some lead belcher on your metal bits. Then a few blobs of copper, just roughly, chuck it on there. And some good old Nuln oil, just straight on top of the rocks. Like that, and stick it on the metal bits as well. Then get some water, about this much water. Castellan green, thick blob in the water, like that. Because you see these cracked up ready bits here, well, they're going to flake. They have already flaked, but if you touch them in a month's time, they can flake away and leave a bit of base behind. So what we do is, we do this with the water. Help seal it in. And it should look like that. And get a little bit more Castellan green on your brush. And put a couple of thick areas in there, a bit of thicker area. It breaks up the monotone feel of it. Monotone? Did I English good? Then a bit of Zamizi, dry brush on the rocks. And around the rocks a little bit on the grey, but not all over the grey. On the ready bits, but not all over the ready bits. It should look patchy, you know, Nurgle-y. Dawnstone, another really good colour. This crap is just going on the rocks, only on the rocks, not grey on grey, on the slodgy grey there. Done. You see, you want it in places there so the brown still shines through, so splodge it, don't paint it. Then a white dry brush, really lightly over the tops and the edges of the rocks, bit on the metal as well, helps the metal pop. And then when you dry brushed your rocks and your metally bits, so your dry brush is really light, put a little bit, just a little bit here or there on the grey. A little bit on the legs. Just helps a few areas pop. I think we're done, but it helps it pop a little bit. Right, we're done. Then you get the Nurgle's rot. You give this stuff a good shake. Mind you, to brush in mouth. You give all of these things a good shake before you use them, but this one in particular. Then you blob the rot. And you know those bits where you dry brushed a bit too hard? You can blob the rot onto them and, yeah. Cover them up. Okay, that's enough. Then we're going to add some tufts of grass. Tweezers help for this sort of thing. I remember when I first used tufts, I used to glue them on, but honestly they're sticky enough. Just squish them in there. Right, and we're only putting these on the grey cold earth, not on the Nurgle bits, and not where any of that red ground is blistering through. Yeah, that'll do. And then repaint the black rim. Job done. Okay, so that's the video. I've added some gun to my Death Guard. Should point out as well that these guns on the Big Knight, which are magnetised and come with different barrels and stuff, are also available from Den of Imagination Painting Studios. Anyway, thanks for watching. Happy wargaming.